Live from the Washington, D.C. area, it's the Inside Scoop, Emerald Planet. All the ecology news that our viewers want to know. Now, here's your host, Executive Director of the Emerald Planet, Dr. Sam Lee Hancock.
Hello and welcome to the Emerald Planet as we come to you on a week-to-week basis from Washington, D.C. in the United States as we look around the globe and those 1,000 best practices, technologies, services, products, and the people, of course, that are making a difference as we go through the 21st century. And as we go to a planet of 9 billion people, how are we going to be able to provide all the basic infrastructure that they need, the food, the fuel, the fiber, and of course, the housing? And that's what we're going to be talking about in this particular show. And I have a gentleman who is working on this in the city of Baltimore, Maryland, in the United States. Christopher King, he goes by King, founder and president of what's called Conscious Capitalism, the DC chapter. And he has a new organization called the Conscious Real Estate Investors Roundtable, Conscious RT. Congratulations on the new organization, King, and welcome back to the Emerald Planet TV.
Thank you, Dr. Sam. Glad to be back.
We're always glad to have you. Tell us a little bit at first about the Conscious Capitalism DC, its vision and also its mission.
Well, Conscious Capitalism DC chapter is a chapter that's part of a conscious capitalism movement. It was started by Whole Foods owner John Mackey. And the premise is that business can solve all the world's problems. And so the DC chapter's mission and vision is to help small businesses understand that they can adopt the conscious capitalism business model, which is to have a higher purpose for doing business than just making money, making sure all your stakeholders are taken care of within your business model, being a conscious leader, which you create a business to solve a problem, and then finally conscious culture, which is about paying your employees a living wage and diversity hiring in that context.
Now, the whole thing about this is what you're doing is you're really changing the paradigm as we normally think of business as usual, correct?
Yes, that is absolutely
And
correct.
looking at this higher purpose, what is a higher purpose and how does that relate to business?
Well, higher purpose is getting at the core reason of why you create your business. Most businesses are created under the auspices of making money. So the purpose is to generate revenue, where a higher purpose is understanding that I'm creating my business to solve a problem or to improve the environment or to be socially responsible. Mm-hmm. So it's having that higher purpose on top of generating revenue.
Now, looking at this, you started this organization, the Conscious Real Estate, again, having this conscious score across all the themes of what you're doing, Real Estate Investors Roundtable. What is that all about?
Well, the Conscious Real Estate Investors Roundtable was a real estate group that was created primarily to help investors who are familiar with and adopt the principles of conscious capitalism, meaning to invest with a higher purpose, which is what we like to say within the Conscious Real Estate Investors Roundtable. So it's a group of it's a higher purpose-driven investors who not only want to generate revenue in real estate, but to make a difference in the community.
Now, looking at that, as far as going back to this, the conscious part of capitalism, conscious part of real estate, all these various things that you're doing, conscious communities, which is what we're leading ourselves into with the real estate. But when you're looking for people to come in, I mean, you invite people to come. People can find out about you, call and say, hey, I'm coming in. But there really is, it's like an interview process that you go through with people because you're looking for what's called equally yoked or like-minded people. So how do you determine who should be part of your organization so it fits in with the philosophy and to make sure that it's open and inclusive to the whole community?
That's a great question. One of the ways that we vet people to see if they're really a good fit with us is we ask the question, what is your purpose? And see what their answer is with that, and how do they feel about being a part of a movement that is to bring about a difference in the marketplace, whether it's a business marketplace, as relates specifically to the Conscious Real Estate Investors Roundtable, to bring about a difference in the local community.
Now, looking at this, the Conscious RT, as you're calling it to shorten this very long name that you have, my titles for my television programs have the same thing as they get very long. But what's the true difference or the essence of what you're doing that's different from other real estate trusts that are investing in property, say in a city like Baltimore or any other major city?
Well, one of the primary differences is the fact that we believe in approaching real estate investing as a business. unlike other real estate investment groups that I've been a part of, I've come under my years of experience, in which they kind of approach it more of a hobby. When I say that is, they lack a business plan, they lack a marketing plan, they lack a greater vision than just, I want to buy a property, rent it out, and sell it.
And just to make a profit on it. So I mean, it's just we want to take this, fix it up, do what we have to do, flip it, and just go on to the next property. Is that the counterbalance that what you're talking about?
Right, that's a typical real estate investment group.
Okay.
How much money can I make? I want to maximize my profit. I want to engage in win-lose transactions. I win, you lose.
And the whole thing about it too is that they want to do this immediately or as soon as possible. How is that different in what you're doing as far as this conscious RT?
Well, our approach is we don't begin to think about buying any properties at all until after we've gone through a very extensive research of the community. We call it, in the real estate term, farming, in which you begin to really understand the dynamics of the neighborhood. We choose 50 houses in a certain community. We want to understand the sales prices of those houses, how many have sold over a 6-month period of time, how many are active on the market, what the prices they are selling, how many are renting. We want to also know, are there any kind of major infrastructures around that community as well, such as jobs, churches, schools, things of that nature. So all that really goes into us choosing a neighborhood before we even begin to buy the first property. And then from there, we're also looking at being clear on what our exit strategy is. That's very important in real estate, is once you acquire the property, what are you going to do with it? Mm-hmm. In most cases, people either rent out or they own it as a homeowner. Our goal is to make sure we've already defined that and we have already begun to work on that process. Following the 7 habits of Stephen Covey talks about, the 7 habits of highly effective people, begin with the end in mind. So we kind of follow that logic.
Now, looking at the people in these communities, some of these communities have very few people because they've been abandoned, and many of the ones that you're looking at, but there's something appealing about it. It may be the fact that it's a major cul-de-sac and you can have a concentric circle of people around, like-minded, like you start inviting rescue squad or first responders or ex-military, those kinds of people into those communities. So when you're looking at the properties themselves, how do you factor in the human beings that are in that area, not just the ones that you want to attract to that area?
Well, as you mentioned earlier, the word conscious is a part of everything. And conscious is really about being aware. Mm-hmm. And we want to be aware of what our stakeholders be in the community, or what they're looking for, what their needs are. And so we factored into where we beginning to develop and revitalize communities, what their needs are. So their needs are better access to fire and medical and police. We want to make sure we establish those relationships with those officials, the city officials, to bring them into the community as well.
Right. Yeah. So what you're doing then is you're going out and you're dealing in a very collaborative way with the community itself. So you
Absolutely.
mentioned that as far as first responders. What other kinds of groups are you looking for in these communities that you want to start meeting with before you ever buy the first piece of property?
Well, we've identified that the community may, and this is through discussions with the community, they have several different needs or issues they're facing, whether it's health care, child literacy, whether it's returning citizens, whether it's green space. Then we want to bring different organizations, nonprofit organizations that we've partnered with to come to the community, and they bring their resources, their tools to help the community grow and adopt things like farming, green gardening, things of that nature in the community as well.
Now, looking at conscious capitalism itself, this is kind of taking a step back from what you're doing now as far as this conscious real estate and investors roundtable. But how does that fit into solving problems at the community-based level? Because I've been to a number of meetings. You have very proactive, excited, smart, dynamic, well-educated people. Not everybody in the community has that kind of background.
Yes.
So how do you see conscious capitalism then going down to the very grassroots of the community? So then you start, the whole thing is everybody gets lifted within the community through this consciousness focus.
Well, let me address that by first pointing out the 4 principles of conscious capitalism again.
Okay.
Principle number 1 being higher purpose. Principle number 2 being stakeholder orientation. Principle number 3 being conscious leadership. And principle number 4 being conscious culture. So with that, to answer your question, stakeholder orientation, principle number 2, is really about engaging the community, getting out and
before the first spade is ever turned.
Before the first spade is ever turned.
Okay.
We want to find out what the issues and the culture is of that community. We want to be a part of that community. And that's also something that's very important and where we're different than other real estate investment groups, is because they look to just buy a property in a community without having any kind of connection at all. We want to make sure that we are clear on what the community's needs, their mores, their culture, their customs, and we want to be a vibrant part, and we want them to see us as an integral part. And so engagement is a very important part of that process. So through town hall meetings, through workshops, working in local churches, and really just getting a chance to know them through outreach activities such as those.
I think that's absolutely fantastic. Now, looking at it, so you're reaching out to the community, you want to know what it is. What are the kinds of things that you're learning, not just about the properties itself, but about how you are operating, which may be different than other people that are coming in to gentrify the community, just buy the house, renovate it, flip it, go on and on and on. What's the feedback they're giving you that keeps your enthusiasm and your interest in continuing to do this?
Well, one of the things is really making sure that, as you talk about gentrification, making sure that they don't get pushed out. That's something that's very important to them. Everybody wants their community to improve, but they don't want to improve at the cost of having to move out of the community or be forced out. So it's important for us to be able to develop a product that's affordable. They can actually, help a person who's renting transition to home ownership and keep the rental payment either very close to what he's renting, or sometimes, in a lot of cases, even lower. His mortgage is actually lower than it would be when he's paying currently for rent.
Now, the second most biggest expense that people have, of course, is the energy aspect of this. Heating, cooling, ventilation. What are you doing to make these houses very energy efficient? And then also maybe tying solar into this, which is now becoming very popular no matter what level or price point on the house. People low income all the way to very high end houses are now looking at solar, wind, other kinds of renewables.
Well, that's a great question. As we talk about conscious capitalism again, being aware, it's also being environmentally aware. And so that's part of that's what also separates us from other developers and real estate investors, is because each house we build is going to be energy efficient. Energy efficient with the windows. We're going to make sure where we can put solar is going to be there. We're also going to use energy efficient appliances as well. So our goal is to make the house as energy efficient as possible. And so we're going to be working with organizations like Baltimore Sustainability Organization that's going to come out and certify our houses make sure they're compliant to a certain level.
That's fantastic. Absolutely. Anyway, King, thank you for being with us. This is Christopher King, founder and president, Conscious Capitalism DC chapter, and the Conscious Real Estate Investors Roundtable. I love what you're doing.
Thank you, sir.
And thank you for being with us as we look at this, as we move through the 21st century, adding 2 billion new people to the planet, and how we're going to be able to house, but doing it in ways that actually improves the housing stock, not just exist as we create the Emerald Planet.
I helped turn my child's public school into a whole new kind of school. One with a curriculum that really motivates kids. One that has extended hours, 6 days a week, year-round. With loads of academic, cultural, and recreational activities. One that has support services like medical and dental right there. A school where parents' involvement is encouraged. Where teachers have more time to teach. And students are excited about learning. There's just one problem. My child doesn't ever want to come home. You can help turn your school into a community school for excellence. Find out how. Call 1-877-LOVE-TO-LEARN.
It's coming. Right to your neighborhood. And when it does, you may be surprised. It's your Social Security statement of your benefits, and it's going to help you plan your financial future. Your benefit statement will tell you how much Social Security you're eligible to receive and when you'll get it. Then you'll know how much you need to save for retirement, because that's coming too. The future is in your hands. Choose to save.
The toxic fumes from this meth lab are seeping into Jamie's sinus cavity. Ammonia vapors invade her throat. Toxic gases fill her lungs. Jamie's body is deteriorating. And she doesn't even know it.
Jamie, dinner.
So, who has the drug problem now? Find out how meth affects you at drugfree.org/.
We're back to the Inside Scoop Emerald Planet. Here again, your host, Dr. Sam.
Hello, and welcome to the Emerald Planet as we're looking around the globe for what we call the best of the best, those 1,000 best practices that are making a difference as we move towards 2050 and the end of the 21st century. Because we're going to be adding 2 billion new people to the planet by 2050, and maybe 12 to 13 billion people will be on the planet by the time that the end of the century. And so all the basic things that people need, of course, the food, the fuel, the fiber, medical care, highways, education, but also housing is a chief component of all that. And of course, real estate and real estate development is a key component of economic development, as long as we have to be aware of the impact on the environment, both for climate change and just the general quality of the air, the soil, and the water. And I have a gentleman sitting right beside me who's very much involved in all this, doing it in a very unique and different way. This is Tony High. He is co-founder, investor in what's called Capital Concepts Real Estate. We'll talk about that in a minute. But also he's a member of what's called Conscious Real Estate Investors Roundtable, Conscious RT. And Tony, welcome to the Emerald Planet TV.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sam.
Glad to have you with us. Tell us a little bit about the background and the philosophy as far as Capital Concepts Real Estate is concerned, and then we'll get into this conscious part of this whole thing.
Sure. Capital Concepts was created because my partner and I, Rick Rojas, he's not here at the moment, but I used to work as a chemist, but I've been doing real estate for about 15 years. I'm also a real estate broker. And Rick is a IT professional, and he wants to leave his job. But I got injured, and with a severe spinal injury, had to leave my job. So for the last 3 years, I was sitting at home thinking what else I can do to provide for my family. So Rick and I collaborated, and we created Capital Concepts Real Estate, and we are looking to rehab homes, find homes that are in need of repairs, and bring the home and also the neighborhood into raise the the price of the neighborhood, or increase
the value
of homes right in neighborhoods. And so that's how we got started with Capital Concepts.
Now, looking at this, you hear about the capital, the real estate, but not often do you have concepts as part of a name for a real estate or real estate trust. So why did you select concepts to be one of the core, right in the center of the name of your company?
We chose concepts because there's a lot of things we would like to do. Not only do we like to provide for our family, but we also like to elevate and improve neighborhoods, things like that, and help the community.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Going to this Conscious Real Estate Investors Roundtable, Conscious RT is the abbreviation for that whole thing. Well, what does that really mean, and how does that directly relate back to this Capital Concepts Real Estate that you've actually formed on your own? Because I understand this other is a collaborative group. Is that correct?
That's correct. The Capital Concepts, our philosophy, that we not just like to make an income or make a profit, but we also like to elevate the community. And I met King and another...
That's Christopher King of Conscious Capitalism.
Yes, that's
okay.
Correct. And he told me a little bit about what they do. And it seems that it appears that our ideas are similar, and we wanted to collaborate to try to make a bigger impact when by working together. And we were looking to improve neighborhoods, purchase properties, increase the property value. At the same time, this has been done many times, and people make their profit and they leave, and eventually the neighborhood reverts back to its state before having arrived there. So we want to make a lasting impact and achieve something that would last a long time and would not revert back to its original state.
Mm-hmm. Now, looking at this adding value, I know, having known Christopher King now for several years and interacted with him a number of times, he has conscious in everything, what he's doing. Conscious capitalism, conscious community, conscious real estate now. So looking at that conscious nature of this, why were you attracted to that? What was so appealing that you wanted to be in a collaborative? Because now you've gone from owning your own company, being your own boss, and all those kinds of things, to now you have an increasing network of people you're dealing with, in a sense you have to deal with, because you're like-minded in mind and spirit. So anyway, why this conscious? What attracted you to that?
Okay. The conscious part, where that comes to play for, I guess, for myself, is that when we move into a neighborhood and we find the properties, target the properties that we want to purchase and renovate and rehab, we're also looking at the people in the neighborhood. Mm-hmm. We don't want to push people out. We want to bring them in, and we also want to bring other services to the neighborhood, not just the real estate. We also want to bring other community civics groups to come in and get involved with the neighborhood and transform the neighborhood, not just by the property, but also by the mindset of the people that live there. Mm-hmm. We want to, help train people with many things like job creation or also training for jobs, because there are many programs that are available in Baltimore City that it's not being used very well. Mm-hmm. For example, electrician, there's training programs for things like that. So
in other words, skill areas that people then could take that and go out and actually work in the community, even in their own community.
Absolutely, and also it would help them to afford, to live where they're at, because Baltimore City is a very expensive town to live in. The taxes are very high. But if we can help people get skills and also help them and give them training on using credit, things like that, and we can fix these homes and have these people that already live there and convert them from renters to buyers, and keep the community alive and prosperous. I think that would last a long time.
Well, this whole thing about consciousness leads to what Christopher King, again from Conscious Capitalism, talks about higher purpose. Now, it sounds like just by the name of your own company, you had this philosophy before you even met. So how is this infused in everything that you're doing now in the community? Because it sounds like you're going to a community, in essence, you're investing yourself into this community, not just your capital.
That's correct. The higher purpose, for me, it means that I would leave something better than when I found it. And in this neighborhood, in these neighborhoods, we are looking to improve and elevate the people that are living there, mm-hmm. and improve the neighborhood to make it safer and the way it was meant to be, a community.
Mm-hmm. Now, looking at something that's interesting, and many times this is demanded by the government and redevelopment and housing authorities, but it sounds like you've been doing this as a private company, is environmental sustainability plan. What is that, and how does that work, and how do you actually apply it into these communities, these properties that you're buying in Baltimore City and the state of Maryland?
Yes, environmental sustainability is very important to us. We like to keep green space or increase more green space, more trees, more plants, parks, things like that. But also, for the homes that we are looking to improve and rehab, we try to put into the the framework of the home that we're built rehabbing, energy conservation. So we want a house that would use less energy and also would limit waste. By doing that, windows, roofing material, paints, things like that. And inside the home, we can use small little gadgets, simple things like timers and adjustable thermostats, those kind of things to maintain the environmental aspect of the homes. But the biggest and most important thing is that these homes are self-sustaining, that they require very little care to maintain these environmental things that we're trying to achieve.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's really very important, to think that you make it easy. And it's not the fact that you're, in essence, teaching or preaching down to people in those communities. What you're doing is you want to elevate the whole community so they have the latest technologies, but it's a way it's going to save them money.
Absolutely, and they don't have to do anything to maintain it, or not very much at all.
Yeah, yeah. Now, looking at holding seminars, I think this is a part of what you're doing as far as the Conscious Real Estate Roundtable. You want to make them more aware of the house, how to maintain the house, how to take care of the yards to keep the property values up. How do you go about doing that, and then how do you allow people to want to be involved? Because many times you can do these things and everybody says, oh, I'm busy, I'm going to go fishing, or I want to be in the garden. So how do you make them want to be involved and then to actually do that?
Sure. One of the biggest things that we would like to do is set up little communities with like daily meetings, not daily meetings, I'm sorry, but weekly or monthly meetings where neighbors come out to meet each other. When we rehab a home and a new owner comes in, we like to have a little block party, something like that, to have neighbors come out, have some food, and meet the new neighbor, things like that. And we also would, regarding the other aspects of home maintenance and things like that, we will offer small little points and tips that we bring these buyers to, that we teach our buyers, so they would know how to maintain their home, and smaller things that would keep their property value or increase it.
Now, looking at, this is something we haven't talked about, but looking at the investors, the banks, savings and loan, credit unions, wherever you're getting the monies so that people can qualify for their loans, how do you go about that so that the lender, whoever that lender is, actually has the same consciousness that you have as far as within both your own company and the Roundtable?
Yes. Right now, for our purchase and then for our rehabbing, we use private lenders mostly. And most of the residents, I'm sorry, not most, but a good portion of the residents in Baltimore City usually would have either issues with income or issues with credit. Mm-hmm. And we have courses, and also there's government services in Baltimore City that helps people maintain good credit or credit counseling. And if they are not able to purchase today, we put them in programs where they can purchase within 3 to 5 years. And at that point, we would help with raising their credit scores, things like that, where they can afford and also can acquire a home loan.
So the whole thing is, it sounds like you're really nurturing people into their own home instead of just trying to sell their home. So how do you draw that differentiation? Nurturing versus just trying to sell something. And then we're going to have to we're almost out of time.
Yes, nurturing. Well, we want to start from point A to point Z. We want to bring people throughout the whole process, let them know how it works, educate them how it works, and with knowledge, that's a big difference.
No, that's fantastic. Where do you see yourself being in the next 3, 5, 10 years as far as your own company and the Conscious RT?
Okay, well,
got to be quick. 10 minutes. 10 seconds.
In 5 years, we're going to transform a lot of communities. Then we're going to move into commercial and also community building.
That's fantastic. Tony, thank you for being with us.
Thank you very much.
And thank you, dear viewer, for being with us as we talk about these conscious communities that are in Baltimore and maybe coming to a community near you as we create the Emerald Planet.
I need a job.
Necesito trabajo.
I would like to speak English better.
Me gustaría hablar inglés mejor.
I want to be a U.S. citizen.
Quisiera ser ciudadano de los Estados Unidos.
For over 35 years,
Por más de 35 años,
the Hispanic Committee of Virginia has been serving our community.
el Comité Hispano de Virginia ha estado sirviendo a nuestra comunidad.
Job training and placement,
Capacitación, ayuda para conseguir trabajo,
education for children and adults,
educación para niños y adultos,
immigration, naturalization, and medical referrals.
ayuda para los procesos de inmigración y naturalización y orientación sobre médicos
Are a small part of what we do.
son solo una pequeña parte de lo que hacemos.
For help, information, or to volunteer,
Para ayuda, información o para ofrecerse como voluntario,
contact the Hispanic Committee of Virginia,
comuníquese con el Comité Hispano de Virginia,
helping everyone participate more fully in American society.
ayudando a todos a participar plenamente en la sociedad norteamericana.
Hey, Lena, where's yours?
Would you notice if you were missing half your kidney function? According to the National Kidney Foundation, 20 million people have chronic kidney disease, and 20 million more may be at risk and not even know it. Anyone with high blood pressure, diabetes, or family history of chronic kidney disease is at risk. Early diagnosis is vitally important. To get the whole story, talk to your doctor and visit the National Kidney Foundation at kidney.org or call for a free brochure. Because when it comes to chronic kidney disease, you might not know the half.
We're back to the Inside Scoop Emerald Planet. Here again, your host, Dr. Sam.
Hello and welcome to the Emerald Planet as we come to you on a week-to-week basis is what we call looking for the best of the best, 1,000 best practices, technology, services, products, and the people, of course, that are making a difference as we move towards 2050 and through the 21st century. And one of those aspects, of course, is housing. How do you bring about the best housing? The most energy efficient, has the less greenhouse gas emissions into the environment, and actually it becomes a caretaker of the environment instead of overloading the system and creating more climate change and heat and all the other greenhouse gas emissions that really are damaging and creating an unhealthy environment instead of creating a healthy one. And I have a gentleman sitting right beside me is actually doing that kind of work. So we applaud you for that. This is Kareem Harid. He is the founder and president of KDRB Construction, but he's also a member of what's called the Conscious Real Estate Investors Roundtable, Conscious RT, and welcome to the Emerald Planet.
Thank you.
You're working in a very exciting area, Baltimore City in Maryland, Commonwealth of Maryland. And why choose Maryland and why choose Baltimore as a place where you want to start doing all this innovation as far as making houses very energy efficient and also more sustainable, not only to the homeowner, but to the environment itself?
Sure. I think for me, the reason that Baltimore makes sense is because it's got a pretty vast amount of available housing stock that is not really being developed en masse. You know, you do have little pockets here and there that are sort of spoken for, but for the most part, you can choose good locations that you can put your development down in and not have a whole lot of, you know, worry with regard to being able to do the type of building that you want to do without a whole lot of negative energy from outside sources. Pretty much in Baltimore City, if you're interested in development and you know what you're doing, they're very helpful in allowing you to do what you need to do to make those houses what you're trying to make them into without a lot of red tape.
Now the whole thing about that, and let's explore this a little bit. Looking at Baltimore, and it has this reputation that it is welcoming. It wants people to come in. It does have a vast housing stock that it really would like to improve, make it much more energy efficient, but also increase the values to the local communities.
Sure.
Why do you feel that the officials there have this kind of idea, but also the spirit that they want to bring this kind of new investment, but doing it in a way where they stay out of the way? Because so many cities, they're actually constantly getting in your way of what it is that you want to do. But there seems to be a different in Baltimore.
It really is different. I have worked with people in D.C. and Philadelphia and New York who have come to Baltimore, and they're amazed at how welcoming it is. The city really makes a concerted effort to do exactly what you said, which is to be welcoming, to eliminate as much of the red tape, because they don't want to be the hindrance to what they're actually trying to accomplish. You know, and a lot of big cities do that to themselves, unfortunately. But Baltimore, that is the culture there in the building department and land resources. They're very much about moving to the next step with you and helping you and making the calls for you sometimes that you need to clear your path.
Now looking at, now we're going to step back. So we talked about Baltimore, where you're physically located, but KDRB Construction. Tell us a little bit about that, and how did you develop this consciousness as far as the environment? Is this something that you've had your whole life? You've kind of grown into it through your construction process? Just how did you come to that realization?
Sure. So KDRB, we really were doing sort of individual projects around Baltimore for about 10 or 11 years. And it's when we got to East Baltimore, which is the area around Johns Hopkins Hospital, that we really took note of the benefits of, working in sustainable construction. A part of that really was due to trying to make what we were building affordable, trying to make it efficient, trying to make it sustainable. So the clientele that we were selling to, if we could keep their energy bills lower, ultimately that helps them to be able to stay in the house. If we can do things like white roofs or green roofs, things like that will just keep them down. That particular clientele, which was largely middle class at that time, it really could use that sort of break on their budget. So that made a lot of sense for us. And it also helped us to build a reputation for being a great green builder, which has given us a good return when it comes to getting new business.
That's fantastic. There's so many builders, contractors. I mean, if they can get one switch plate that's a little thinner, looks okay, but maybe not as good as the other, but it's 5 cents different, they go with something that's 5 cents less. Many people are saying if you make this house very energy efficient, very comfortable and all that, it's going to greatly increase the cost of the house and all that. But I think what you're saying is it's almost the opposite of that, because it's not just the house, it's the energy, the long-term maintenance, all these things that goes into the total cost of that house.
Yeah, for our clients, and we actually did this comparison because, of course, in Baltimore, you do have a lot of vacant homes, and that was a factor where we were developing. And so we had the ability to compare our finished product to the utility bills of some of their neighbors. And in every case, our utility bills were at least half the amount of the other utility bills.
Yeah, that's incredible. And I was doing some panelized construction systems in the city of Richmond, Virginia, and we were doing that. We were putting R60 in the roof, 33 in the walls and all that. And so we took houses that literally next door would be in the 200 range, and ours would be below $30.
There you go.
And it's all about doing all that. So I understand what you're doing. A lot of insulation, a lot of caulking that goes into doing that kind of thing. Looking at this Conscious Real Estate Investors Roundtable, what attracted you to that? What is it? We probably ought to start with. And then how do you think that complements what you're doing as far as KDRB construction?
So what attracted me to the Conscious Roundtable is a higher purpose. So there's lots of construction companies, there's lots of developers, lots of real estate investors. In the case of Conscious Roundtable, it's doing some of the things that everybody else is doing, but also keeping in mind the impact that you want to have on people, the impact you want to have on the environment. And we're about that. Before we were members of Conscious Roundtable, we had some similar tenets that we follow, where we don't want to just come and build and leave. If we finish a community, we want to leave that community with stronger ties, with more ability to sustain itself, with a better neighborhood, strong neighborhoods. And so going above and beyond just construction, just building is absolutely what Conscious Roundtable is about. So that was a natural fit for us.
Now looking at this, you have your own company, so you can, you develop the philosophy and all those things as you want to, but with this Conscious Roundtable, or Conscious RT as it goes by, you're building up community within a community.
Yes.
But this community goes across all of Baltimore City and extends down into Washington, D.C. So what are the benefits you see about your membership and your active participation in Conscious RT?
So
what's the give back is what I'm looking at.
So the give back is that Conscious RT it's a much larger organization than what I would have been able to do on my own. The types of projects that they're working on and that I'm able to be introduced to just expands our ability to have that impact. So I'm just one person, I'm just one company. What they're doing, it has a long reach. I would have never been entertaining anything in DC or Silver Spring or Virginia. I would have been very much localized to having an impact in East Baltimore. just the initial introduction to Conscious Roundtable has taken me to the west side of Baltimore and now down towards Montgomery County and Prince George's County.
In the state of Maryland.
In the state of Maryland,
Right.
yeah. But they are also a part of a much larger organization that, hopefully as this model develops, will be utilized in other parts of the country to demonstrate how you can have an impact on the community, how you can still make a profit as a developer, but also leave something that's lasting, that can, far exceed your ability to impact just in your lifetime.
Yeah, I love it. Fantastic. Who is Thurgood Marshall? And then also you have something called the Thurgood Marshall Way Initiative.
Sure.
So who is he? And then what is the initiative?
All right, so Thurgood Marshall is the first Black Supreme Court justice. He actually served up until only 25 years ago. Like, people think of Thurgood Marshall as a, historic figure, which he is, but he is not that far removed from
his
being
legacy
on the
is
court.
still here.
And so Thurgood Marshall had a huge impact. He is the attorney who argued Brown versus Board of Education, which allowed segregation in schools. Integration in schools, excuse me. He's from Baltimore. And so we found that working this Thurgood Marshall Way initiative was one way that we could sort of tie in a more conscious approach to construction. So that initiative is surrounding his particular house, which was in Baltimore on Division Street, developing that and developing the community around there. He went to Douglas High School, which is not far from where that is located. And what we're going to do is we're going to redevelop that neighborhood and turn it into what it used to be, which is a thriving community in Baltimore, utilizing a lot of the conscious principles that we follow.
And also being very sensitive to the environment and energy efficiency and all those things.
Absolutely.
Looking at community engagement, how do you foster that community engagement, and then how do you bring them in so in essence they really become almost like partners within the organization, both for Conscious RT and for your own construction company?
Sure. So what we do to foster those relationships is we reach out to the community in a number of ways. When we initially come into a community, we actually go and we introduce ourselves to the members of that community, and we go to the community association and we let them know what our intentions are. We take their feedback, because a lot of times when we land somewhere, we don't know the inner workings of what those actual community needs are. We know from a housing standpoint, but we don't know all the other things that are around that. And we've partnered in many cases with the city of Baltimore, and some other private companies in the area to make sure that the people who have needs in those communities are able to get those resources, typically from the city, but we also give back to the community. In addition, when you have development in an area that has not seen development for a long time, you can get resistance. And so when a buyer is purchasing our home, we do what's called a ribbon cutting ceremony, in which we invite the entire block out. Everybody comes, we have food, it's usually in the morning, we have breakfast, and they literally cut the ribbon for their house and construction starts. And so we're trying to, create those bonds in community before we even get started on construction.
Fantastic. Kareem, thank you for being with us. Kareem Maharid, founder president, KDRB Construction. Thank you for being with us as we create the Emerald Planet.
One day these rats were playing in the woods. Well, it's some matches and that's no good. Listen to smoke before you give it a try. Only you. Don't play with matches. Don't play with fire. Cause there's nothing very funny about ripped out life. Nothing very nice on a homeless mind. So if a gorgeous force is what you desire, don't play with matches. Don't play with fire.
Only you can prevent wildfires.
Fire.
Why don't you just wash your car at home?
When I wash my car, everything runs down the street and down into the storm drains. With all the chemicals in the soaps and waxes, the last thing I want to do is poison my own drinking water.
At least here, it's all contained and recycled on site.
That's why I also take my car in for oil changes instead of doing it myself. I might take a chance on spilling stuff.
You know what the best part is?
What?
More time to kick back and watch the game.
How far would you go to protect the planet?
I want you to build an ark.
Here we go. Okay, that's good. Oh, okay. Ow! Oh.
Maybe there's another way.
People, the flood is imminent. Is it too much to ask for a little precipitation?
Go to fightglobalwarming.com to find out what you and your community can do to reduce global warming pollution.
Somewhere around the world, there are men and women of the armed forces risking their lives, helping rebuild communities after natural disasters, collecting toys for needy children, tutoring kids in school. These are your sons and daughters who work to keep us safe, secure, and free. Dedicated men and women who put their country first.
We're back to the Inside Scoop Emerald Planet. Here again, your host, Dr. Sam.
Welcome to the Emerald Planet as we come to you on a week-to-week basis from Washington, D.C. in the United States as we're looking around the globe and for those 1,000 best practices in 144 different nations. And we're doing this so that we're bringing the best of the best across the planet so that people can be connected and actually to create community no matter what nation they may live in or what community they're affiliated with. And I have a gentleman who has a similar type of philosophy. This is Christopher King, goes by King, founder and president of the Conscious Capitalism DC chapter, and also the Conscious Real Estate Investors Roundtable, the Conscious RT. And King's been with us a number of times, and welcome back to the Emerald Planet TV.
Thank you, Dr. Sam. I'm glad to be back.
Looking at this concept that you have, this Conscious Capitalism DC chapter, but it goes far beyond that as a movement. But how do you see that changing hearts and minds of local officials, places that you're now doing this real estate investment in, and then also at-risk communities within Baltimore City and the state of Maryland?
Well, one of the ways is that, you spoke about it as a movement, and I think we believe that's what's going to really hit and give the greatest impact. When folks find out that they can actually do what they love and then make money from it as well, I think that's going to resonate greatly with people, as well as being able to positively impact the lives of others. And that's what really is the core essence of what the Conscious Capitalism movement that we're building is all about.
Yeah, you see that, and many people talk about that at the community level. But then when you start getting into the levers of government, all of a sudden that seems to change.
Yes.
But it seems like you've done something special in Baltimore City that people have not done in other communities. Is because, in a sense, they welcome you there, and they're trying to help you with introducing conscious capitalist principles into the community. So why do you think that's different in elected officials in Baltimore than maybe other what we call legacy cities?
Well, as everyone knows, or may not have known, last year Baltimore went through a protest period over the death of Freddie Gray. And that kind of really launched touched a vein in people to let folks know that they no longer wanted to be oppressed, they wanted to get their voices out there, and conscious capitalism gives them a voice that's around economic empowerment, real estate and financial literacy and job creation that folks can really wrap around, as well as the politicians can as well. It's not something that is destructive, it's something that is, that's something that folks can really put their hands together and collaborate and be a good part of and see the difference as well.
Mm-hmm. So you feel like that's the reason that you actually took the Conscious Capitalism DC chapter then into Baltimore, because you feel this inviting and welcoming nature of that? Or is conscious capitalism actually helping to change mindsets, both from elected officials and maybe people in the community that's going more towards this conscious capitalism philosophy?
A little bit of both. We realized that the Baltimore community itself was already, there were some leaders there in Baltimore City who had began to make some changes and transitions. And so we just brought a different flavor and gave it a definition of conscious capitalism. So there were some folks already engaged in that kind of activity. We just thought that, with the framework that conscious capitalism has laid out, folks identify with it, resonate with it, and now folks are really beginning to be a part of this greater movement.
Mm-hmm. Looking at this, the capital real estate concepts that are going on, this is one of the partners or collaborators that you have in there, but also you have this Conscious Real Estate Investors Roundtable. And that came out of this conscious capitalism movement that you have.
Correct.
So how do you see those blending together? And then is this something that's just in Baltimore as far as this roundtable, or is that already spread around other parts of the United States?
Well, one of the ways it's going to blend together is the fact that diversity is key to what we're going to be doing to build a movement. You know, like people use that age-old statement that it takes a village to raise a child. Well, it takes a village to change a village. Mm-hmm. And so having different, diverse groups of individuals come and be a part of it to get their perspectives, their cultural insights is very insightful and helpful. And no, so Baltimore is just going to be where we begin to craft a model. Then once the model is built, then we intend to take it to other cities, such as other cities we're exploring right now, like Philadelphia, St. Louis, New Jersey as well.
I see. So really what's happening then, this is almost like a national model program that you're establishing in Baltimore. You want to perfect it here, or at least adapt it to the situation in Baltimore.
Correct.
And then see how that will spread to other cities. How do you look upon being able to do this to a Philadelphia, to a St. Louis, these other cities that you've just listed?
Well, our way of going into the community is first to establish roots with a lot of the what we call anchor institutions, such as the churches, nonprofit organizations, and really begin to volunteer and get connected at that level. So that's kind of the basis point. And then from there, we began to start to do our real estate research to understand the communities, the neighborhoods, again, farming, and begin to understand what the housing stocks, what's causing the housing stock to be depressed, what can we do to improve it, and we begin to build out from there. But everything is centered around first beginning to get engaged and establish ourselves and get connected to the community is the first step.
Well, as long as I've known you, you always have a high level of energy. You're very interested literally in everything, but also you always have this positive can-do type of attitude. So what do you find the most fulfilling about not only working with homeowners in this area, but home buyers that may be coming in to these areas that you're going to develop through this conscious roundtable?
Well, throughout my journey as a conscious leader, I believe what's important is understanding what your person's purpose is in life. My purpose is to serve. And so for me, being active in this movement, being a part of conscious capitalism, whether it's real estate development, business organization, or even the conscious business organizations that I run, it's really about me being able to live my life as I see fit, serving others, and that brings me tremendous fulfillment. When I put my head on the pillow at night, I know that I've made a difference in someone else's life.
That's absolutely fantastic. Well, looking at this potential for environmental improvement and enhancement, you have Baltimore City, which is a legacy city, so it's an old industrial town, shipping port and all that. So that leaves all these legacy ills within that. But going back to this Conscious Real Estate Investors Roundtable, it seems like not only you're trying to deal with the real estate, but also you're really looking at the conscious part of, if I can use that term, of the environment and environmental improvement, you know, air, soil, water. So how do you put all that together, and what changes have you seen in the 1 year plus that you've been actively working in Baltimore?
Well, the only way this whole collaborative can work is that we have to get, again, a diverse group of individuals to be involved. Folks from the environment have to be involved, their voice has to be heard. How are we being environmentally conscious so that we can be clear on them, making sure that not only we improving the social issues, but making sure that we have addressed energy efficiency. There's an ample amount of green space in the area as well, so that kids can have places to run and play, that we can help create green gardens so that folks can start growing their own fruits and vegetables. So that's also important. And the way we kind of integrate that is really just old-fashioned way of just grassroots, getting out there and talking to individuals and passing information on the street, door knocking, and just being involved with different workshops with different nonprofit organizations, but really being visible and being a true resource so the community can come and we can engage and learn from one another.
Looking at this, of course, it takes a lot more than just realtors to be involved in this. You have investors, you know, the bankers, the savings and loans, credit unions, you know, all these other types of organization. What different organizations do you have as part of this Conscious RT that really is giving you that balance that you don't have to go out and keep looking for people in the community. People are coming into the organization itself. When you sit down to your meeting, you look around the room. Okay, I've solved all 7 of my issues this evening right now. Well, who do you have in there that we could highlight and talk about how they contribute a little bit and really enhance the investment in Baltimore City?
Well, from a financial perspective, we have an individual who, his name is Jack Foster. He's been a person that's been a hedge fund manager, he's raised over billions of dollars for different hedge funds. He heard about conscious capitalism, loved the model. He was at a point in his life where he wanted to start raising funds to make a difference. And so what I've learned is that the age around 40 years old, even though he's much older than 40, but what I've seen is 40 seems to be the magical number that folks from either Generation X or baby boomers start to ask themselves the question of what is my legacy and what impact am I going to leave on the world? And so when they start to ask that question, that's when they really resonate with the conscious capitalism movement. So Jack is one of the financial resources. We have other different lenders that we're working with that also is bringing investment capital into the movement. And we're tapping into social impact funds, which is investments that don't focus so much on the return, but focus on the impact itself, and that's what gets measured as far as getting access to that kind of capital.
And what you're really looking at then, King, is it's the ripple effect that you have. Everyone you job, everyone you homeowner you have, you're creating a positive impact on 5 to 7 other people, depending on the community and how many businesses and all that are involved. Looking at this Conscious Real Estate Investors Roundtable, how do you see that impacting you personally, you and your family? And then how does that re-energize you the next day? I know you said, I go to sleep at night, I feel good, I want to get up in the morning. But what do you see, how does this reverberate across your whole family?
Well, again, we say conscious capitalists. So we are capitalists at the end of the day, in which we intend to bring a product or service to the marketplace and improve upon that and receive a return for that. And so doing real estate can be a very lucrative business to get involved in. But real estate that actually helps transform people from renting to home ownership, transform communities from blighted to engaged and prospering communities, to help create jobs through real estate, that for me, I find to be I'm a problem solver by nature, so to me it just allows me to kind of stay within my wheelhouse of being creative, solving problems, and just engaging with other people of different backgrounds is just something I find to be very enjoyable.
Over the next 5, 10, 15 years, we only have about 30 seconds to do all this, but what do you see for the potential for bringing new people into this Conscious RT, the roundtable itself, to help in Baltimore City and other legacy cities?
The growth is going to be exponential. Each home that we build, each person that joins, they receive a benefit. It's going to tell someone else, and the ripple effects is going to grow from there.
I think it's fantastic. Thank you for being with us. This is Christopher King. He goes by King, founder and president of Conscious Capitalism DC chapter, and also the Conscious Real Estate Investors Roundtable, Conscious RT. And thank you for being with us, King. And thank you, dear viewer, for being with us, because we're here for you to share these many ideas, the best of the best practices that we have as we create the Emerald